When we talk about workplace safety, what are we really trying to protect? It's about so much more than just following a set of rules. It's really about defending the most complex, most valuable machine you will ever operate, your own body. So to really get a grip on safety, we first have to understand the very system it's designed to protect. Okay, so let's dive into our tour. First, we're going to look at the unseen hazards all around us at work. Then we'll see how our body's outer shield, its first line of defense, actually works. After that, we'll explore how those defenses can be breached and what happens when hazards get inside. And finally, we'll get into how we can protect our most critical core systems. All right, first up, the unseen workplace hazards. You got to think of this as sizing up the battlefield. Because every single job site, I don't care if it's an office, a construction site, or a lab, has potential health hazards. And the whole science of anticipating, recognizing, and managing these risks, well, that's called occupational hygiene. And this official definition from the International Occupational Hygiene Association, it kind of gives away the whole game plan. Just look at those first two words, anticipating and recognizing. See, this isn't about reacting after someone gets sick or hurt. No, it's a proactive mission. It's about seeing risks coming and stopping them in their tracks before they can do any harm. So what are we actually looking for? Well, these hazards usually fall into 5 main buckets. You've got your chemical agents, things like gases, liquids, even dusts. Then there are physical agents like noise, vibration, or radiation. Biological agents are things like viruses and bacteria. You've also got ergonomic factors, which is all about how your body moves and strains. And yep, even psychosocial factors like stress and workload are on the list. It really shows you that workplace safety is so much more than just putting up a wet floor sign. So with all those threats out there, how does our body even begin to defend itself? Well, that brings us right to our next section, your body's outer shield. I want you to think of these as the massive fortress walls that make up your first line of defense. And the main wall of that fortress, it's your skin. It's so easy to just take it for granted, but it is our single largest organ. And it's not just a covering. It's this dynamic, living barrier that's actively guarding everything underneath, your muscles, your bones, all of your vital organs. And its job description is, well, it's huge. It's a water-resistant shield. It's our main defense against germs and bacteria. It's a super sophisticated thermostat for our body. It's how we feel things. It even makes vitamin D from sunlight. But notice that last point. It also allows for the absorption of some chemicals. And that's a crucial vulnerability we have to remember. And at work, that shield is under constant assault. We see things like dermatitis, that painful skin inflammation, from chemicals in dyes or cutting oils. There's physical damage from friction, from the weather, or from sharp equipment. You can get biological infections if you work with animals or soil, even cancer from substances like creosote. And of course, there are the immediate, obvious dangers, like chemical burns from strong acids or bases. Now, along with the skin, we have another critical and way more delicate part of our outer defenses, the eye. It's a vital gateway to the world for sure, but man, is it vulnerable. Our body does its best to protect them, right? We've got the blink reflex, eyelashes to catch dust, and tears to wash things away. But in an industrial setting, honestly, those defenses are like a wooden fence against a cannonball. They're just so easily overwhelmed by something like a chemical splash, a piece of metal flying off a grinder, or the intense light from welding. Okay, so what if a hazard gets past that outer shield? It's still got to find a way in. This brings us to the next stage, the main invasion routes. This is all about how those hazards breach the gates of the fortress. For all the complexity of the human body, it really comes down to 2 main superhighways for hazards to get inside. You either breathe them in, that's inhalation, or you swallow them, that's ingestion. It is that direct. Now, inhalation is by far the most common route of entry in the workplace. Think about it, all those airborne contaminants, dusts, fumes, vapors, you breathe them in, deep into your lungs. And because your lungs are built to be incredibly efficient at getting oxygen into your blood, they're also a super efficient, fast-track route for toxins to get into your entire system. The second major pathway is ingestion, which sends hazards right down into your gastrointestinal tract. And look, while it might be a secondary route compared to inhalation in a lot of industries, it is every bit as serious. And you know what? A lot of the time, This happens through really simple, everyday actions. A worker handles some hazardous material, they don't wash their hands quite right, and then they eat their lunch, or have a smoke, or just take a sip of water. That simple hand-to-mouth movement is all it takes to introduce a dangerous toxin directly into the digestive system. All right, the hazard has breached the gates. It's inside. So, what happens next? This brings us to our next section, hazards on the inside. Now we get to look at the body's internal highway system and its very own dedicated cleanup crew. So once a substance gets inside, it often hitches a ride on the circulatory system, our bloodstream. This network is absolutely phenomenal at delivering oxygen and nutrients right where they need to go. But here's the catch. It's just as good, just as efficient at delivering harmful substances to every single organ in your body. But our body is smart. It has internal defenses, a cleanup crew. And a key player on that crew is the urinary system. You can think of your kidneys as your body's personal, highly advanced filtration plant, and they are constantly working to clean your blood. The liver and the kidneys, they're a team. The liver is like the main detox center. It gets to work metabolizing chemicals, trying to break them down into less harmful versions that the body can get rid of. Then, the kidneys take over. They filter all those waste products out of the blood and get rid of them through urine. It is a powerful 1-2 punch against toxins. But what happens when that cleanup crew gets overwhelmed? Or when it comes up against substances it just can't break down easily? Well, that's when we start to see long-term damage. And that brings us to our final section, protecting your core systems. See, certain toxic substances don't just pass through. They're actually drawn to, and they build up in specific parts of the body, almost like a magnet. And here we see two of the most critical targets, the skeletal system, our body's very framework, and the nervous system, which is basically our electrical wiring and command center. And this slide really shows the chilling reality of that long-term danger. Just take a look at lead exposure. Over 90% of the lead that gets into your body eventually gets stored in your bones. And from there, it can leach out and cause health problems for years, even decades. Or think about the nervous system. Common industrial solvents can cause direct, sometimes irreversible damage to the brain and nerves. This can affect everything from your coordination to your memory. So what's the big takeaway here? Look, learning about all these vulnerabilities isn't meant to scare you. It's about building awareness. Because understanding how your body works, and more importantly, where it can be harmed, that is the absolute foundation of protecting it. This knowledge empowers every single safety decision you make on the job. So, we'll end with a thought I want you to take with you. Now that you've had this quick tour of the body's defenses and its vulnerabilities, take a second to think about your own environment. What are the invisible hazards that might exist in your own workplace?